Also, it's interesting to hear that the calculation behind the debt payments was apparently 3.6%. And of course, today we are sitting at, let's just call it 4.5. Let's call it 4.5. That means that the actual fail of the bill is, almost 1 percentage point worse than expected. The bond market is signaling a dire situation, that according to chief economist at Apollo, Torsten Slok. I have a funny feeling that we are going to be hearing from Torsten Slok many times over the next 6 months. He seems to be the chief economist that is frankly most negative on where we are as an economy, where the economy is going. Torsten Slok now is saying that stagflation is coming to the United States of America. Says that the tariffs will undoubtedly slow the economy and cause inflation to go higher. Also highlights that this big, beautiful bill is not being looked at kindly by the bond vigilantes. And we need to pay attention to the interest rate on the 10-year, which is now over 4.5, and the 30-year, which is now over 5.1. Also, I haven't finished the All In podcast yet, but about 30 minutes in, they did a lot of talk about the big, beautiful bill, and frankly, how disappointed they are in this bill. Apparently, a lot of the last-minute negotiations that were added to get the bill passed are frankly not good for the economy, not good for debt reduction. And it will be interesting to see what the Senate does. As I understand it, the House passed it. Now it goes to the Senate. I also wonder if the bond vigilantes get out in front of this, if it might force President Trump, frankly, to veto the bill. Wouldn't that be an interesting turn of affairs? Again, putting out a bill that is going to add 3, 5, 7, 9, whatever you want, $1 trillion to the debt. Also, it's interesting to hear that the calculation behind the debt payments was apparently 3.6%. And of course, today we are sitting at, let's just call it 4.5. Let's call it 4.5. That means that the actual fail of the bill is, almost 1 percentage point worse than expected. So again, lots of things to watch for. Again, we talked about the bond vigilantes on Thursday. This is a fast-moving issue. We are seeing, frankly, the Japanese bond market break in the last week or so. They've seen their bond rates go significantly higher, almost completely vertical. So there does seem to be something breaking in the system. Next week should be very, very interesting. Don't forget, folks, if you are in school, you are going to have the luxury of speaking with Ty and I in about 27 minutes. Ty and I both actually have 90 minutes available. So if we go past 60 minutes this week, it's okay. So we may go as long as 90 minutes. If you want to ask questions about what's going on, our thoughts, what Ty has seen in the last 30 years, we will be there for you. Since we're talking about school, we've had 4 people join in the last 48 hours. I want to thank Estella, Rodovan, Jackson, and Sterling. All 4 joined in the last 48 hours. I appreciate you. And give a shout out to Michael, who actually picked up one of our ORAT hats. Yes, folks, I do have some swag, t-shirts, hats, coffee mugs, things of that nature. If you want, go to my website, onerentalatatime.com, and check them out. Let's move into the Fed. The Fed is, I think, clearly painting what the future is going to hold. So we've got 4 Fed presidents that I noted in the last 48 hours. Fed President Cook is up first. I am watching the commercial real estate market closely. Me too. I think there is plenty of pain and plenty of opportunity. It's interesting that Fed President Cook did not take it one step further. Because if you're the Fed president and you're concerned about commercial real estate, I would strongly guess He's also worried about the banking system. Again, you have to imagine a lot of these commercial real estate loans are held by small and medium-sized banks. If they were forced to mark to market versus extend and pretend, a lot of these banks, frankly, are insolvent. So I think when Fed President Cook says watching commercial real estate, it's also a wink, wink, nod, nod. We got to watch the banking sector. Next up, Fed President Cook says, I'm seeing a lot of stress in the low and moderate income. Duh. Where have you been? Next up, Fed President Schmid. Nothing good happens when the interest rate hits the zero bound. Fed President Schmidt went on to talk about the fact that we should not go back there. More on that in a minute. Next up, Fed President, I'm going to say Muslim. God, I got to hear somebody say that so I know how to pronounce it. Anyways, he says that there's a 1 in 5 chance at most that the Fed rate approaches zero again. One of the things we talked about with Jerome Powell at the Jackson Hole meeting, which now is, I think, 2.5 years ago, might be 3 years ago, where he said basically pain is coming. I think he's trying to kill the Fed put. I think he's trying to reset that the Fed never goes back to zero, which I think is a good thing. I think it rates at zero doesn't produce any good things. I do think it's interesting that there's a 1 in 5. 1 in 5, that's like 20%, exactly 20% chance. I certainly hope it doesn't happen. And then finally, Fed President Goolsbee, rate cuts are still possible, ... over the next 10 to 16 months. Folks, remember who called no rate cuts in 2025? This guy. Yes, Fed President Goolsbee is saying no, cuts are possible, but you're going to have to wait 10 to 16 months. Next up, and finally from the Fed President, Goolsbee says, if tariffs have stagflationary impact, meaning lower growth, higher prices, it is a worst case scenario. Yeah, if you watch this channel, you know that to be true because, again, the Fed's tools are not designed to fight stagflation. They either fight a slow economy or they fight inflation, not both. So again, worst case scenario. We just heard some more interesting news from Redfin. Redfin is out saying 1 in 7 home purchase contracts were canceled in April. That is a wild number, 1 in 7. That is actually the second highest rate on record. Lots of cancellations, lots of people going in the contract, lots of interest rate shock. It is not good. Also got some more news on the Las Vegas real estate market. Inventory is up 44.5%. Buyers have clearly retreated. That is what's going on in most markets. Not all, but most markets, as we've seen demand destruction. That is, again, something I think is coming for the economy. It'll be an output of the tariffs as well as demand destruction. While Las Vegas real estate inventory is up 44.5%, prices are also up. In this case, they are up 3.6% to $437,000. Also note that inventory, while up 44.5%, it is down 20% from 2019. Finally, folks, let's talk about next week. We got a lot of economic and earnings coming out. Remember that Monday is a holiday. It is Memorial Day. It is that time where we remember and celebrate the folks that fought for our country and frankly gave all. All gave some gave all. It is that time of year to show respect and appreciate those who served, especially the ones who gave all for this country. Next up, we have Tuesday. Let's do earnings first. So again, Monday's a holiday. Tuesday, we get AutoZone and Okta and Box. I'm going to be interested in hearing about AutoZone, what's going on in, frankly, the used car market, what's going on with people repairing cars versus buying new. Wednesday, we get Macy's, Dick's Sporting Goods, NVIDIA. NVIDIA will be a big deal, Salesforce, and U-Haul. I'm probably most interested in hearing Dick's Sporting Goods. Again, they're buying Foot Locker. What's the plan for that? I think U-Haul might be interesting. One of the things we're seeing in Las Vegas is the California migration has really turned into a trickle. So it'll be interesting to see if U-Haul has any updates on that. NVIDIA will obviously be market moving for, frankly, the entire AI and tech sector. Thursday, we get Costco, Gap, Ulta Beauty, Dell, Kohl's, and Best Buy. Again, what's going on with the consumer? I'll be looking at Best Buy, Costco, and probably Ulta Beauty to see what's going on. The economic week ahead, we got, again, Monday's a holiday, no reports. Tuesday, we get 2 Fed speeches. Case Shiller, that will be for March. Durable goods. Wednesday, we get 1 Fed speech plus Fed meeting minutes. I think the Fed meeting minutes released in the afternoon on Wednesday will be interesting because, again, it'll be interesting to hear or see what the Feds thought about tariffs because that was a big topic, I'm sure, in the meeting. Thursday, we get weekly unemployment claims and continuing claims. We will get pending home sales for April. Again, existing home sales significantly disappointed. We'll see about pending home sales. 5 Fed speeches on Thursday. That's a big day. And then Friday, we will get our third and final in reading on inflation. It's called PCE, Personal Consumption Expenditures. Headline expected to be 2.2. That's awful close to 2%. Although, as the Fed has told us many times, they watch PCE core. That is expected to come in at 2.6. Also on Friday, you will get consumer spending and consumer sentiment, along with 1 additional Fed speech. And then lastly, we should close out on existing home sales and new home sales, as those came out late last week. We didn't really discuss in detail. We'll do new home sales first. New home sales surprise to the upside. 743,000. That is up 11% month on month, up 3.3% year on year. It was expected to only be 695, so a significant beat. Why? Well, new home builders are meeting the market. You want a 4.99% interest rate, got to go to a builder. This is just where we are in this situation. And then finally, existing home sales. This is one that we got right. The experts were wrong. Again, they expected us to be at 4.13. I said the day before it'll be 4 million, and it was exactly 4 million. So feel pretty good about that. It was the worst April for existing home sales since 2009. Wow, 2009. That's crazy. And prices were up, but at a slower rate of 1.8%. Again, folks, this is the spring selling season. It is going to go down as a dud, a miss. It is the really showing that my call for total sales for the year being sub 4 million really has a chance. All right, folks, that is the daily financial news. We will be back tomorrow at 7:30 a.m. if you want to check it out. Also, don't forget that Steadily is Landlord Insurance and the sponsor of the Daily Financial News. In fact, they recently helped me save $1,000 on a 4-plex, so I am now sending them a 10-plex. Let's see how they do on a 10-plex, and I'll let you know when I get that number back, probably sometime next week. Again, if they can help you get better rates, better coverage, great. Give them a shot. Don't work for everybody. Don't go everywhere. But again, I am sending them another property, this time in an apartment building, to see if they can help me out some more. Hope you have an amazing day. Enjoy the 3-day weekend. Don't forget to remember that we are celebrating Memorial Day, which is an important holiday for the country. Take care. Have fun. Bye.